Good evening, friends. Stephen Benin with Israeli News Live, and wanted to give you a little update on the issues that we're hearing about in Ukraine. And of course, one of those issues is dealing with Russia using a nuclear weapon over in Ukraine, and this has not happened. Let's see here, we do have here, this was a message that Russell put up himself. I wanted to play this clip for you here, talking about Mariupol.
It's Tejas and Donbass, 17th of April, 2022. Operation Z in full effect here in Mariupol. This city is more liberated than it is damaged, but it's heavily damaged. There's a lesson to be learned by all people in the world from Mariupol, and it's this. Those who allow their masters, their leaders, their rulers to become fascists, to start wars, have to understand that those wars are coming to their homes too. People here in Mariupol didn't think that their city was going to be like that. They thought that their government, their army, was going to make our city, Donetsk, like that. But that just goes to show you never can tell about war. Donetsk is still standing, looking good. Mariupol looks like this.
Russell goes in. He'll go into talk about how that the United States started this war, and that they're the ones that continue to fund what's going on. But he also talks about wanting to see peace brought to the region, and that the fighting would stop before it ends up spreading further into Europe and then possibly also the United States. Also, I want to show to you here. This was on war in Ukraine. British Special Forces are training local troops in Ukraine, serving UK soldiers on the ground for the first time. We have British Special Forces have trained local troops in Kiev for the first time since the war with Russia began. Ukrainian commanders have told the Times. Officers from the two battalions stationed in and around the capital said that they had undergone military training, one last week and the other the week before. Letting you know the British are also there on the grounds in Ukraine. And this one really caught my attention here. That was published. Ukrainian Jews in Dnipro celebrating Passover in uniform. Well, you kind of can't help but wonder, Ukrainian Jews, or do we have Israelis? Because we also know that there have been a lot of Israelis that have been sent to fight in this war in Ukraine. And as my wife had pointed out before, that they're planning on trying to make Ukraine the second Israel. This was something that Menachem Schneerson had brought out years ago, that this would be the Israel 2. So I thought that'd be interesting to note for you as well. We also see, of course, this is just one of many things there. Russia's sending in more types of armaments into the battlefront there in Ukraine. And also Lavrov, he's coming out on a interview with what was it? It was a Russian television interview there, but he's been a little bit more blunt about the EU becoming more like an enemy. And you can only figure after all the years of sanctions and trying to have diplomatic talks and stuff like that, and it's just going nowhere. As I always say, though, both sides, there's not one side greater than the other in this conflict. Of course, I'm against fascist Nazis running the country and what's happening in Ukraine like that. But I'm also against communism as well. I don't support communism, don't support fascism, either one. But we are certainly seeing a horrible crisis that is unfolding in that part of the world. And to me, it's all for a setup of a new world order. And I guess in that case, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. The ultimate goal is for their new world order. One thing to be worth watching, though, is the Donbass War Summer 2014 Retracing the Steps, the RT documentary. I'll try to remember to share this link in the description below because they're blocking RT pretty much everywhere. Also, Oliver Stone did a very interesting documentary on the conflict in Ukraine, which also is an eye-opener, especially from an American director's point of view. And in closing here, I know this surfaced a little while back. Everybody thought this was Lieutenant General Cloutier. I didn't believe so, because if they were masking his face, I knew good and well it couldn't be him. And there has been some stories popping up saying that he was not the lieutenant general that was taken. And of course, as we brought out and confirmed, that there was a officer taken by the Russians in Mariupol. And as I said, I could not confirm that it was General Cloutier, but we did get, and it was kind of a little mix up in the communication, one of my last communiques there with DC there, but it was actually what was said was a lieutenant colonel was taken captive. So, you know, we never have been able to confirm that, other than that initially was stated to us. We assumed that it might be the general here, and maybe it was just a mix up in the verbiage and it meant to say lieutenant general. But my last transmission was a lieutenant colonel was taken. So we still don't know the answer to that. Might be able to get the answers to that later this week to find out what really went on. I know that even if they'd caught a lieutenant colonel, the U.S. would want to keep that as hush-hush as possible until they could get his safe return home. At any rate, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. And post a little video over on Patreon. You might be blessed in watching it. And we also released... Actually, we released a video. Let me just kind of show you that there on YouTube, on my private channel on YouTube. Let me just pull that out for you real quick. Our private channel over there on YouTube under Stephen Ben-Nun. I just put up or released one of the videos that we had there on Patreon that actually was published back on December the 8th. I think you'll be blessed by this, but the reason why I published this one here was because of another video, and I don't have the link in there for you, but I do. It is, the link is over on Patreon there, where another gentleman only confirms the information that we had shared here, and some very interesting insights on the giant creature that was found at the bottom of the sea. And of course, we go into the fact that the movie Underwater that was released in 2020 was actually based on a true story. And so I think you might find that interesting if you care to do so. Anyway, that's patreon.com/Israeli News Live. Thank you for listening. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live.